Well, hey everybody, Chris here. I've also got Charlie with me. Charlie, the little baby ball python, because he's awesome and he's very cooperative. So basically today, I just wanted to do a quick video, a special video to me that I wanted to share with you guys, and that's how I got started in the world of fish keeping. What started me with where I am now with my tanks and all that stuff and everything. So basically, to get right into it, I'm 19 years old now. Just graduated high school last year. Now I'm in college and everything. And the roots of where fish keeping started for me, it goes back to 7th grade. So going a ways back here. But back in that time, I was a big, sports player, basketball, soccer, indoor soccer, outdoor soccer, the track and all that stuff and everything. And in 7th grade, during the winter of that year, we were, my indoor soccer team, I was playing indoor soccer, and we were competing in our championship for that season. So basically, you'll understand why I'm talking about this in a minute. But so basically, it was the last game of the series. We were so close to the championship. Everything was going really well. It was awesome. I remember everyone was all excited. So it was the second half of the game. Basically, I get a breakaway, and I am just sprinting as fast as I can with the ball down to the other end of the field. And there was a kid on the opposing team. He was right behind me, and he was fast too. So he was keeping up. And right when I planted my left leg to take a shot with my right leg, as soon as I planted that that leg down, this kid, he purposefully, I'll add, he slide tackled me. He slid and he took out that leg. Now I still had all of the momentum of sprinting as fast as I could. So as soon as he took that leg out, I launched into the air. I did a 180 in the air. I spun around, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with indoor soccer versus outdoor soccer, but indoor soccer, there's no out of bounds. Wooden boards or metal boards, depending on where you're playing or anything, but in this case it was wooden. So wooden boards outline the entire perimeter of the field, so the ball can't go out of bounds. It just bounces off the boards and goes back in. So I'm flying through the air at this point, and I spin around, and the first thing to make contact with the boards was the back of my head. I smashed into those boards so hard, just flying through the air, and the last thing I remember from that was the noise that it made. It was such a loud just bang, and that was it. I was knocked out cold for about half an hour. I woke up in the hospital, had no idea where I was, how I had gotten there. I knew who I was, but that's pretty much about it. They were asking me, who's the president? I had no idea. Do you know where you are? I have no idea. I just had no idea what happened. So the story will start to make sense as I come around here and incorporate it into fish keeping. So, to make a long story short, because I could go on forever about it, after that I ended up, it was a grade 3 concussion. It was really, really bad. I mean, my brain had swelled up so much to the point where, they were this close to having to drill a hole into my skull to relieve the pressure. Thank God they didn't have to do that. But in my previous years, when I was a little kid, I fractured my skull twice previous to this concussion. So I've had a lot of brain trauma and everything. I've never broken an arm or a leg or anything like that. It's always been my head. Lucky me. So basically, what I'm getting at here is after I got this last head injury, everything was very difficult. School became nearly impossible. I mean, my attention span, my memory, it was all gone. It was awful. I was getting migraines and I was fainting very frequently. I fainted in school, more times than I could count. So eventually it got to the point where I had to take some time off from school. But anyway, the following weeks after the incident happened, things as basic as having a conversation with a friend on the phone became so taxing on my brain. Like, I couldn't process anything. Like, people would talk and it would take me 30 seconds just to piece together what they had just said to me. So I couldn't go out to the movies or do this and that. Everything was just so mentally taxing on my brain. I just pass out or faint or get a migraine. It was awful. So here comes the fish part. Back at this point in time, back in 7th grade, here in the house we had a little 10-gallon fish tank that was sitting over there in the kitchen. And there was just some random stuff in there. It was before I was interested in fish keeping. And it was just something that, my parents had put together for everyone to enjoy and da-da-da-da. So, there was some random stuff in there, like some mollies and some black skirt tetras, little things like that. And when I would come home from school, and in a lot of my free time and everything, which I had a lot of free time at that point because I wasn't really doing that much, I would pull up a chair, and I would literally sit there and just stare at this fish tank and just zone out. Because it was the one thing that I could do to where I could sit there and I could stare at those fish, and it was not mentally taxing on me at all. It was so relaxing. It was, I would just sit there and stare at the tank and just get lost almost. It was almost like a meditative thing. I would just totally space out and just relax and sit there and watch the fish tank. Now, as the months went by, I started recovering from this, head injury and everything. My memories started coming back, my mental capacity started coming back and everything, and that's when I started asking myself questions. That's when I'd stare at the fish tank and I'd be like, alright, well, how come these two fish are following each other? And how come this fish is chasing that one? How come they don't seem to get along very well? So that's when the research started. I'd hop on the computer, and it was at the point where, I could look at the computer screen and it wouldn't really bother me that much. So I started researching all of the fish species that we had in there, and that's when I started learning, okay, these are schooling fish. They need to be kept in groups, and this fish can be kind of a bully, and this one's trying to breed with that one, and everything started coming together because I was doing all the research. So basically again, I keep saying this, but to make a long story short, again, even though this is going on forever, we had the 10-gallon tank, and that's when I really started getting into it because I'd sit there and I'd watch the fish so much. I started doing all my research, started getting some different tropical species, having some little groups and stuff, and then, I had that tank for about a month, and then I upgraded it to a 20-gallon tank, which, was still, tropical community fish, everything like that. Then I got a secondary 20-gallon tank, so now I was up to two 20-gallon tanks, and that was when I kept my very first cichlids in that tank. It was actually the very first cichlid I ever had was a Crebensis cichlid, and I had it in a 20-gallon long tank, and I actually ended up, as I was doing my research and learning about it, I got a female Crebensis. I figured out how you visually sex them and everything. And, in that tank, all of a sudden I woke up one morning and there were little babies all over the place. I had no idea what was going on, and it was bewildering to me. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. There's babies in here. So I started researching like crazy, figuring out what to do and da-da-da-da. So then I upgraded to a 45-gallon tank. So I had a 45-gallon and the 220s. And then shortly after that, I got this 75-gallon. I took the 45-gallon down, and it's been awesome. The biggest tank that I had, I got it about a year and a half ago or so. I got a 125-gallon tank, but the damn thing, as soon as I got it, because I got it off Craigslist actually, it had a leak in it. So I filled it up. I used it for, I didn't even get finished cycling the damn thing before I had to take it down because it was leaking everywhere. And, since then I got another 75 that's down in the basement. But this is the main, 75 that this is up here in the living room and everything that everyone gets to see. All my other tanks are down in the basement. So I'll have to do a video of those at some point. But that's how it happened. So because of that head injury that I got, and I was so just mentally taxed by everything but fish, that's where, you know, the interest really started blooming. I started researching everything like a crazy person. I mean, it got to the point I could look at any picture of any sort of cichlid, I could bang off, you know, scientific name, the pH, the water conditions, all this and that and everything. I'd drive my friends crazy because I wouldn't shut up about fish. I'd try to get them all into fish keeping and everything. But that's where it started. So now these days, I mean, you guys know, you've seen my videos, I'm really, really into the African cichlids, but I've had a lot of experience with the Central and South American cichlids. I've bred so many different species out there, and it's been fantastic. I mean, this hobby is, you know, I thank the universe, you know, for it every day, that I'm able to, you know, keep these beautiful animals, and, you know, they provide me with a sort of therapy. They really do. Especially back then when I was really recovering from that head injury, it seriously was therapeutic for me. And even now, you know, if I get anxious, I'm stressed out or something like that, I just come, I plop down, and I sit in front of one of my fish tanks, and I just observe them for a while. And I'll tell you, it's one of the most amazing things ever. And, you know, I feel like only you guys, you know, fellow fish keepers and everything, can really understand that. But it's just, it's such an awesome, awesome thing. So, you know, yeah. So, you know, I'm glad that I was able to share this with you guys. You know, that's kind of my little story of how I got into fish keeping. But now, you know, over the years, I've researched so much stuff, and, you know, somehow, with all the, you know, shit that's happened with my head, I'm actually able to remember all this stuff. So I've got all this fish knowledge in my head and everything. And I'll tell you, my dream, actually, you know, when I get older, is to have my own, you know, my own little family-owned, you know, fish store, like a specialty store.